Díobh Gogdín agus Céad Míle Fáilte go Tíre Sir and Nucht. Apologies for the delay again tonight. We have a very interesting show lined up for you. We're going to be talking about the wisdom of ancient Ireland and looking at history from a uniquely Irish perspective. And we're joined tonight by a man I had the pleasure to meet recently down in Cork. It's Gerard Banks, or as he's also known as Gerard Banks. Gerard, you're very welcome onto Tíre Sir Radio, and I'm excited to hear what you have to share with us tonight.
Yeah, thanks, Gav. Come here. My apologies about coming on so late as well. Just had a problem with emails and stuff there, and trying to get on Skype, you know. So what I'm going to talk about is the ancient wisdom of Ireland and what a lot of people don't know, and I suppose what a lot of people are looking to find out as well at the moment. Like, we come from a very amazing place, and we're only realising today that all invading empires in Ireland, their job was to remove the history of all previous peoples and societies and stuff like that. Like, for any empire to flourish, they need to get rid of the previous people and stuff that were here, you know. So what I'm going to speak tonight, I'm going to speak from an Irish point of view, and I'll explain exactly what that means. Like, most people don't know what Irish identity really is, and that's what I'm going to just speak about and move on from there. Like, the very word Irish, it actually derives from ancient Irish language and ancient Irish alphabet. The word Irish derives from the word IRIS, which is the iris, and the iris is actually part of the human living eye, and the eye is seen as the gateway to the soul, where the soul is the home of consciousness and the home of the collective consciousness. So to say you are Irish means you are of consciousness, and we are seen as the conscious people. And it's very interesting when you look into it, when you look into the actual ancient history of all of this, and how and why particularly why we're called the people of consciousness, and why we had such an effect on so many different societies across the world. Like, there's a lot of symbols and all this kind of stuff that the ancient Irish people had, and that was their own. But because of invading empires coming along, they actually manipulated and used all our symbology and wisdom for good or bad or indifferently, like, you know. So now it's kind of, people today are living in a bit of confusion because they don't know their own true identity, and there is a massive reason why they're not supposed to know it, because Ireland is a very ancient and a very powerful place when you understand the energy of where we actually come from. And when you start realising this, you start realising why so many societies were hiding all of this wisdom from us for a very, very long time. I was lucky that I kind of grew up knowing a lot about all this kind of stuff, but I'm just going to tap into the spiritual essence of Ireland and the significance of where we are on the planet, and how we actually interact with all other societies around the world. Like, if you look at, I was talking before about, if you look at Ireland, it's in the shape of either a bear or a baby fetus, depending on different societies around the world call it the Great Bear, or others call it a fetus and stuff like this. But you will notice as well that kind of Ireland, like, whatever happens here, Ireland is actually a high velocity energy point on the planet, so to speak, and whatever happens in Ireland sends a ripple effect of consciousness through frequency right across the globe. So we are a very, very powerful nation, and that's why the ancient Romans, they actually called us Hibernia, and Hibernia means the land of the sleeping people, because they knew that what they were doing was keeping us asleep, but they knew one day that the people would wake up, realize who they are, and their consciousness would change about the planet. So what was happening is, from that point on, they tried to manipulate our education system and change a lot of stuff, because when our consciousness wakes up, they want us to believe different things that are not true, and we're realizing that today. And we're realizing, like, the veil has came down, so we're realizing exactly what's going on. So when you look at Ireland, it actually proves the whole micro is the macro, the whole man and woman's connection to nature. Like, as I said, if you look at Ireland, it's in the shape of a baby fetus, right? And
yeah,
if you look at points, it's an absolutely amazing story of man's connection to nature, and that's kind of just what I start off with, and I kind of go deeper and deeper then into
Yeah,
it.
I've heard you talk about this before. Like, if you want to maybe go through that, how the anatomy of Ireland sort of has a spiritual significance.
Yeah, because it has a very spiritual significance, but it also has a significance because you will understand why the ritual of the Battle of the Boyne happened, and why all of these happened, and what the effect it had on global consciousness, and how these people are using ancient Irish wisdom and knowledge against us, which is not right. And it's not like that is untrue to us. And we're like, I was tapping a small bit on the kind of New Zealand Maori and stuff like that. And I've been into this stuff for years. I've even been over there talking to all the tribes and stuff over there. We actually have the same thing going on, and it's absolutely amazing when you look at it. I'm just going to read out something there just to get us started anyway. This is a very nice introduction that a girl called Era came up with, and it was really cool, so I'm just going to start with that. So, it has come to my attention, and it's my share it. Here goes. On a planetary level, the land of Era is the catalyst for a complete reform of the concept of government that spreads right across the world. This is a very, very special place. Everybody knows that in their hearts. What happens here is setting the stage for a change of the entire planet. It is vital that everybody who feels it and feels us gets behind us and helps, as we have the potential to set the world free from oppression beginning on our very soil. People of Era, do not underestimate our potential. Why do you think we have been the unique targets of the mind-altering drug fluoride, which is proven to cause apathy and lower intelligence? Ireland is the future, beginning now. Let's take up a role with honour and pride like the warriors that we are. Native American Indians say that one dreamer is worth 1,000 warriors, and that Ireland is a nation of dreamers. It is said that it takes up to 144,000 dreamers holding the same dream to attain critical mass within humanity that will bring about the transformation of consciousness needed to bring a change within our physical structures. There was a girl called Carrie Young who wrote, and it's really nice to be able to introduce it like that, because she gets it spot on. The reason you have 144,000 is, well, there's actually 144,000 seconds in a day, and that's where that number comes in, and it comes into, with pyramids, it comes into a lot of stuff, because it's based on natural mathematics, so to speak, you know. It's based on kind of the laws of nature, and like in Ireland as well, our language is actually the most ancient language that is known today. It's the oldest form of communication. It comes from the names of native trees, and I could talk about this stuff for days, but when you start realising the power of true Irish language and communication, it's the means of complete harmony with nature through sound. Because everybody knows sound is energy, right? So if you can produce sound properly, you can affect the enhancement of nature and frequency and stuff like that. So that's why ancient Irish language is actually a very spiritual language that most people don't know about.
Well, it's interesting, the Ohm letters, the letters of the Ohm alphabet, each one of them has a tree assigned to it, a correlating tree, and we call that alphabet Ohm, Ogham. And in India, they have a language, Sanskrit, which is sort of similar to Old Irish in a lot of ways. And they have a letter of their alphabet called Om. But in that context, it's the spiritual context where it's that sound, Om, by itself, captures all other sounds that the mouth can make. It's supposed to be the universal sound. So I think it's interesting when you're talking about how the alphabet that the Old Irish used to use was based on the sound of resonance and things like that.
Yeah, it's very interesting because it's actually, when you look into it, it's actually the language of intuition. Like most people don't know, like intuition is a very powerful thing, you know. But when you, like, how would I say it? Like if you have a baby child in your arm, when the baby is hungry, the baby will make a certain kind of palated sound, and that is actually the origins of where the word ukras comes from. Like ukras means hungry in Irish. So like before we learned the language, we spoke what naturally came to us, and we spoke what was completely at one. Like when you're speaking English language today, you have to think of the word before you speak it. So you're actually living in a delayed time process, or in a false state of time consciousness, so to speak. So you're actually living in a delayed process, which has a big effect on human consciousness. and that is a reason why the Roman alphabet was introduced, to manipulate the frequencies and stuff like that. But Irish alphabet is very, very powerful when you start to realise its true essence. Also, when you look at kind of law and stuff like that, when you understand ancient Irish alphabet, it is a very powerful thing. You understand the true meanings of a lot of stuff. And that's why, like, the problem we have today in schools is they're actually teaching Irish language using English alphabet. That makes about as much sense as learning the Russian alphabet using learning the Russian language using the Japanese alphabet. It's completely different. Like, people need to realise that Irish alphabet is 100% different than English alphabet, you know, and it is really, really, really interesting when you understand that. I'll go into that a small bit more. I'm just going to go into the spirit of Ireland first, you know.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting thing. So as I was saying, like, the land of Era, or Ireland, is in the shape of a baby fetus, right? And everybody knows about the chakra points in the human body and stuff like that. But when you start looking at the chakra points of the fetus of Era, because in accordance with ancient teachings, we are meant to look at our land as a living entity, and we are meant to harmonise it as like a complete living entity. And there's only when we start doing that properly, the world will know peace, because apparently you can tell the consciousness of the whole of mankind by looking at Ireland as a whole. That is the power of what we have, and that is what all other empires knew and stuff. That's why they all had to come there. That's even why King William and King James had to come to the Boyne Valley. They had to manipulate global consciousness for them to get their power. That was the main thing that happened there. Well, I will just speak a small. Like, if you look at the base chakra, that's the point where all energy rises in the human body. That's actually the loch in Cork. It's a man-made swan sanctuary built a good distance above sea level. It proves that man can harmonise with and create nature. It was there. It predates pre-biblical. Like, most people find it hard to realise that there's something in Cork pre-biblical. But you look at the Boyne Valley, you look at everything. There's a lot of stuff pre-biblical, and so how can half the country be ancient and the other half not? It doesn't happen that way. Like, there's a reason people think that way. You're not meant to. The system has been designed so you don't truly understand the power and wisdom of ancient Ireland. But even you look at where the loch is, in 1884 they changed the time meridian to Greenwich Mean Time in London. Before that, it was held by the loch in Cork, by the base chakra in Ireland. So that was a misalignment of consciousness, of collective consciousness, and a transforming of actually time consciousness. Because if you can get living in a false state of time consciousness, you can control a lot of them. And that's why we have false calendars. That's why we have all different stuff. That's why we have leap years, and the shift are all about kind of getting man away from thinking what is natural to him. Yeah. But there's a lot, I could talk about the loch as well for days. About there's more mathematics in that than there is in any pyramid. Like, you know, as I said, also the significance is read the starry plough, which was the oldest calendar we had. So when the starry plough is closest to Earth, and that's when it's closest to Earth, where the part where it's closest to is actually it's near the loch. It's aligned with the loch, and that's what a lot of like meridian lines and stuff like that. That's what a lot of that kind of stuff is.
Is that why the Greenwich Mean Time was originally at this loch? Is because the starry plough comes close to this loch when it does its orbit around Earth, or
yeah. That's the exact reason. But that's why it was changed, so you don't kind of put two and two together, you know.
You were telling me before that this is the loch where Walt Disney actually got a lot of his ideas, because I didn't know this at the time, but Walt Disney actually had a castle in Cork. Yeah.
What he was actually, the interesting thing is he was actually a Cork Freemason, right? I'm not a Mason myself, alright? But I've just looked into a lot of this stuff. He lived in West Cork. He lived in Coolmain Castle in West Cork. He had his own castle. And he wrote most of his stories at the loch in Cork, because what we are talking about now, he knew about all this, and that's why he wrote all his stories about it. And like, that's why he wrote about mice and swans and all this kind of stuff in his early days, because in his first writing, because that was about all the wildlife at the loch. There's even an interesting mythological story that there's a castle underneath the loch, and that's an old local mythology and stuff like that. That's where Walt Disney got his idea for the Disney Castle, and that's why the Disney Castle today is inside the Swan Lake. But now you have a very interesting thing, because some people say that Freemasonry, it's when you die, your business goes to the Brotherhood and stuff like that. So if that is the case, that makes the Cork Masonic Lodge one of the most powerful lodges there is, because they obviously would have controlled a lot of television, you know. So we're only realising, like, in Cork we are realising we have so much of good, but there's a lot of bad in Cork too as well, you know. It's about what you give your energy to and all this. As well as that, the lock is also part of Russian belief. Like, just over 26 years ago, the Russian government came and they actually came to Ballyvihan and gave us 2 black swans. The Russian army came and gave us 2 black swans because they wanted to create a harmonious balance between black and white swans and hope this will have a ripple effect of consciousness through frequency to actually heal the planet. And
so the sort of implication is there that other cultures, Russia, have a knowledge of this, what you're talking about, this sort of energetic nature of Ireland, and for that reason they brought these black swans over as a gift to the community, so it would to be a balance of black and white swans in that lake that would have a ripple effect across the globe. Is that right?
Yeah. But the thing is, it's not just the Russian country. Like, that was a beautiful thing for the Russians to come over. I'll agree. Like, that was nice. And at the time when I found out about this, I found it hard to believe. I was kind of going, what the heck? There's people coming from the other side of the planet over here because they believe this has got some powerful energy and they wanted to free the energies of Ireland and stuff like that. Like, when I was young, I understood a lot, but that was a lot for me to take on board at the time. But growing up, then I realised what is actually going on. But it's a lot more. It's a lot more than that. You even have the New Zealand Maori. The New Zealand Maori is part of their belief too, as well. Okay, it's also like, and that's why it's a very proud thing for a New Zealand Maori to play rugby for New Zealand, or no, rugby for Munster. I mean, and the home of Munster rugby is actually originally Ballyvihan, and it's so there's a lot of stuff goes so energetically.
So, what's the connection with the Maori people in Ireland?
It goes back into like when you. I could talk about this for days. This simple thing now, right? In New Zealand, a Maori princess. They still have Maori princesses in their country. If you are a girl and you were born with green eyes and orange hair, you are a princess. You are seen as just a princess with sacred DNA. And everybody knows that these people kind of go back to Ireland and stuff like that. As well as that, you have the Moai people. They believe in Moai, which is the god of the sea and all this kind of stuff. But that's all actually ancient Irish. That's all ancient Irish. Like, if you want to truly connect the New Zealand Maori to Ireland, you need to look at like today we look at Newgrange in County Meath. But what was there a long time before that was Old Grange in Limerick, in Lochgur and stuff like that. And that kind of connects Ireland with Verona and with Ethiopia and all these because both black and white men came from Ireland, you know. And when invading empires came, that was what they'd done. They got rid of one half, you know, to try and manipulate everything. Yeah,
well, it's, as you're saying, that's just reminded me of in the legendary and ancient historical accounts talking about the Fomorians.
Yeah.
Which were the ones who came out of the sea. In the legendary accounts they described them as like sea monsters, but in like historical accounts they just described them as the Fomoric. And some people say that these were North Africans, which would give the connection between Ireland and North Africa, which is obviously where Egypt is as well. But Fomor means like free muir. Some people have translated as mean under the sea. So that's also like you're talking there about the Maoris, and they worship a sea god called Maori, which is like Fomorian. There's a similar root word there.
Yeah. But it's very interesting as well. Like, I can speak Irish, and when I was in New Zealand, there was very I knew there was a connection. And when I was in New Zealand, it was strange hearing. There was a lot of New Zealand Maori people speaking, and then I was kind of going, shit, I actually understand half what they're talking about. What is going on here? And that was mind blowing at the start. Then you realise that then they start telling you, like, the only main difference is, like, when we say V as in BHI, like, we say V, but they pronounce the WH as V, you know? So the only difference in pronunciation is what we say is BH, they say is WH. But it all originates from ancient Irish, and that's the very interesting part. Like, Moai is their god, and I know, to be honest with you, when you look into Moai is a druid, you know? So that's the interesting part, you know? That's the very interesting part.
A lot of what you're talking about also reminds me of Michael Tessarian's work, Ancient Origins of Ireland. You'd be very much on the same page as Tessarian with that, would you?
Yeah, definitely. Like, Tessarian he's done a lot of great work, in fairness to him, you know. Like, some people agree with him and some people don't, but at the end of the day, he's got some great stuff to share, and he's coming from his own truth, you know. But definitely, he's got a lot of. I'd like a lot. I'd like to get a debate going, me and himself, just having a good chat about a lot of stuff, because like I've been into this stuff very long for a long time, and it's cool that people are now waking up to the whole Egypt and the whole Newgrange stuff, but there is so much more to that, you know. And like, I could talk about stuff here, and I'd say it would, because a lot of people aren't ready to hear a lot of stuff, it would freak a lot of people out, you know. But it's just that we have such a powerful and such a really nice history and heritage when it comes to it. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here, yeah. No,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And as you know, it's an area that I'm particularly interested in as well. And looking at the ancient origins of the Irish people is a fascinating subject.
It is absolutely fascinating. But it's like, as in, we are just the conscious people. That's the interesting part, you know. And the interesting conversation I had with the New Zealand Maori, like when I was over there, they were saying, "Oh, white man wrecked everything." But I was saying, "Wait there a second. That was white church man." I said, "I'm not white church man. I'm white Irish man. There's a big difference, you know." And then they started laughing because they get it straight away, like, you know. But
well, that's sort of like what you were talking about earlier on about looking at things from an Irish point of view. Is that sort of what you meant there as well when you're saying not a churchman as in not a Roman?
Yeah. But it's very interesting as well, because if you look at when St. Patrick came, and we were led to believe that he got rid of the snakes, but he didn't. He got rid of the DNA, and the serpent represents the DNA of Ireland and stuff like that. But I'll get into that a bit more in a sec. But what he also done was he got rid of our native tongue. He introduced Roman language and all this, Roman alphabet and numerology, and manipulated the frequency of this land. But he also, the Roman Empire at the time, also physically removed our tongues. They walked like a lot of druids off the cliffs of Moher, and they chopped off their tongues to stop them from speaking in the afterlife. But today, when the New Zealand Maori does a haka, and when they stick out their tongue and symbolically stick it out, the reason why they stick out their tongue is they keep their truth. You're not getting their tongue. That's in respect to Ireland, what to do that. Like, that's I was educated on that in New Zealand, and that was a fascinating thing to be told, you know.
Mm.
So it's very interesting when you look into it. But the thing is, there's so much information there. It's mind-boggling. Like, we're only like it's like a rabbit hole. Like, you know what I mean?
Absolutely, rabbit holes within rabbit holes.
Yeah. But I'll just get through the rest of Ireland anyway. So I might as well just keep things progressing anyway, you know. And then I'll get into the Battle of the Boyne, and we'll have an amazing chat about that anyway.
Yeah, go ahead. Absolutely.
Yeah. But like I was talking about the base chakra, that's the point where all energy rises, and that's why you had like UCC was set up in Cork. Oh, there's a lot of stuff that were in Cork done to suppress all this energy from rising and stuff like that. Then you had Ushnuk. Ushnuk's in the navel, right? The navel. Everyone knows. Like, people are realizing today about Ushnuk and the power of Ushnuk. Look, Ushnuk is the center point of Ireland. It's known as the breath of Ireland, and that's why you had fire ceremonies, because with the breath, it's kind of a source of creation of new life and stuff like that. Because even when we as humans, when we breathe in, at the point you go to breathe out, your body produces carbon dioxide, and that's what actually completely relaxes your body, and that's spiritually said to create consciousness and the new birth and all that kind of stuff. And that's why you have fire ceremonies at Ushnuk. And fire is because you burn fire, so that means it's getting rid of something, but then you're giving life to something new, which is the fire, you know. So Ushnuk is the breath of Ireland, and anybody who knows anything about spirituality or meditation or anything like that, they will know that breath is the most important thing, you know. And breath is health, breath is conscious, breath is your entry point into the consciousness of now and all that kind of stuff. That's why Ushnuk was so important, and that's why when they were doing ceremonies in the ancient times, you could see everything then around Ireland. We move on to the heart chakra, and the heart chakra then would be the Boyne Valley, and everybody knows that's the beating heart of Ireland, and I think everybody realizes that the power of the human heart these days and how it interacts with everything, and that's our connection point to everything, and that's your, I suppose, your most powerful creative part of your DNA will be part of your heart, and how you can change frequency using your heart. Like if you're angry, if you're feeling love, you notice yourself that you have a different feeling in your heart. And that is true. Like when you look at Ireland as an actual living entity, like in the ancient teachings and ancient traditions, that is actually the beating heart of the country. So you have Newgrange, North, South, the Boyne Valley, the Hill of Tara. You have an awful lot, and you can see even from just the Boyne Valley how we interact with so many other global societies. Like that's the reason why the battle of the ritual known as the Battle of the Boyne had to take place, and that's why we were educated to think that it was a battle and to think that we lost something, because like I'm not any bit sectarian. I'm 100% the opposite. But as a kid, when you're growing up and you hear that the Irish people lost the war in the Boyne, it's an effect on everything. You're kind of going, oh shit, did we? What happened there? Like, what, is it gone? Don't we control anymore? All this kind of stuff. And I know it is something small, but it does have a massive effect.
Yeah, and this is another thing that Sectarian talks about, and I was very interested to learn that not a single bullet has been found from this Battle of the Boyne. And Andrew Power, who wrote the book Ireland Land of the Pharaohs, he describes how it was a ritual rather than a battle. He describes how this was just a ritual sort of ceremony that was performed.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Like, that's exactly what it was. It had nothing to do with what we think war. It was nothing like that, because even if you look at it, William of Orange, or William of the House Orange and Nassau, was actually a relative of King James. So you're realising it was not going to be a war. It was actually planned out with the family. But at the time, you had William of Orange was representing the Crown Corporation and the City of London. So King James was representing the Vatican. So this was a ritual between the Vatican and the Crown Corporation. Now you look at Newgrange and what actually that symbolises and what's going on. It's more ancient than a lot of stuff. We know today that they're after changing the stonework and changing things a bit. But if you look into everything, it actually predates a lot of stuff. There's a fascinating belief today that it's actually just an ancient laboratory where human life came to be, so to speak. That's what a lot of people think now at the moment, and in a way they have reason to believe that. So when it symbolises the sun coming in and the rebirthing and all, like it's aligned with the solar system. It's aligned with absolutely everything. When you have the sun coming in and the rebirth and all this, so what happened is the Vatican, because if that was where life started, that would be the exact reason why the Vatican and the Crown Corporation, who were two of the most powerful entities on the planet at that time, that's why they would have to go there. And it wasn't a battle; it was a battle of wits, where the two of them were trying to decide who was right and who was better, and who can control the other more and stuff like that. And that's what happened, because that was the introduction to sectarianism in Ireland. And we can see instantly that when you get a pain in your heart, right? Any normal person, when you feel something is wrong in the heart, afterwards your head isn't right, like, you're thinking about it, what's going on. So if you look at Ireland as a whole, after the Battle of the Boyne ritual, then the head of Ireland was divided. Both hemispheres of the brain were divided, left and right, and then that you had Roman Catholics and Roman Protestants, and then you get them to fight against each other, and as a means of turning the energy of a country in on itself for the benefit of a corporate empire, and that's kind of along the lines of what's going on. But it's interesting when you look at the Boyne Valley as well, because the river, I think a lot of people notice at the moment, the river of the Boyne Valley is the exact same shape, is the exact same design basically as the Nile, River Nile in Egypt.
Yeah, I've heard this as well. I heard Andrew Power talking about this as well. It's a very interesting point, and I tried to look it up on Google Maps. I couldn't get the designs to fit over each other, but he was sort of making the analogy that the Battle of the Boyne was some sort of passage of Ra, or based on some sort of Egyptian mythology. Do you know much about that?
Yeah, well, no, fair, because Ra basically means to do with the sun, So what happens is in Newgrange, everybody knows it's all about the solstice and what's going on there, and you got the sun coming in the door. So anything got to do with sun has got to do with Ra, so to speak. And that's what it is. It was about kind of trying to manipulate the energies of all that kind of stuff, you know. Like I today, you know, I was even looking for. I was going to upload an actual picture of the two over just kind of overlying each other, just to show how they're both the exact same, you know, how they're so similar. It's incredibly interesting.
I'm just in the chat box here. Spirality saying that the Boyne is similar to the Nile at Luxor turned sideways. So if you find Luxor on the map, turn it sideways, and then they're supposed to be identical to each other, which is interesting. But what do you think is the significance of Ireland in all of this? Why is it Ireland that's so important? Is it just where the country happens to be on the sort of geographical energy grid, or is there something more to it? Like, you know, what makes any of this sort of information differ from the like sort of folklore myths that the Norse people might have or the Greek people might have?
Well, the thing is, this is what it all goes back to, really. When you look at Ireland, you're actually connecting back to source, really, you know. I'm not trying to say that in a way that Ireland is better than anybody, no, but if you've studied it for years, you kind of go, shit, there were actually a very ancient society altogether. Like what I was saying with the chakra points and the energy points of Ireland, when you actually go through it in depth, you realise that, shit, this is actually very similar to myself. When you look at it properly, you understand a hell of a lot. You understand that all these cults and all these people, they're like a lot of societies who are trying to do negativity and all this kind of stuff, they still have to come back to Ireland to do a lot of stuff, you know. And it's very interesting when you look into it, you know. It's incredibly interesting.
Yeah.
But even like when you look at the Battle of the Boyne as well, like it's interesting that when King James came over and King William came over, they also brought troops from India and global military representatives from all over the world. So they brought people over to witness it, to stand there and actually witness what they were doing, you know. And that is very interesting, to say the least. Anyway, you know.
Yeah, so they sort of had these dignitaries from all the other countries to sort of be present at the ceremony to sort of confirm that the transfer of power had taken place.
Yeah. And then you look at how that has affected the world today, because you look at that time as well. That was when the big banking thing happened as well. You know, like when power went to the Crown Corporation and they got the ability to print money based out of nothing. All this kind of stuff all happened kind of in and around the same time frame, you know. And it's very interesting just to see, like it's interesting just to see that the Boyne Valley is so significant to all of these people, you know. Like another very interesting thing is as well, like the story of Cuchulainn. Have you looked into the story of Cuchulainn much?
I only the stuff that you sort of do when you start learning history in school, but no, I haven't looked too much into his legends. I know a couple of the stories.
Yeah, but it's the origins of the story of David and Goliath, you know. But it's also when, like, the very interesting part is, like, even if you break down Cuchulainn, it's actually Ku Klux Klan, and that's very similar to the Ku Klux Klan, you know. I'm not trying to turn Irish history against you, because a lot of people have, like, Cuchulainn and stuff like that. But it's very interesting when you see that, like, there is people in the world who believe that's, like, Cuchulainn goes back to Ku Klux Klan, you know, and which is the Ku Klux Klan actually means the sacred sun circle and all this kind of stuff. So they will go back. They would be kind of people who use all sacred sun worship and stuff as well. And New Grange would be the actual origins of it. And it's kind of interesting when people go on about that as well, you know.
Yeah, it does, absolutely. When you look into symbolism of the KKK, you do see the common esoteric signs for sun worship, the same signs that obviously that the Nazis used to use, even the names that they have for each other, calling each other wizards and grand commanders and things like this, the same sort of terminology that you get in the Freemasons. So it's like whenever you go to any of the secret societies and scratch the surface of their symbolism, you come to sun worship in some form or another. it all comes back to this idea of sun worship. And then
Yeah.
you look at ancient Ireland and you can clearly see that the people who, if you were to just believe the history books we got in school, were supposed to be just hunter-gatherers at the time, and supposedly not to have this sort of intelligence, were building these massive structures that were aligned to the movement of the stars and the planets, to show this appreciation, or to show this knowledge that life and all energy and everything came from the sun. So hence they had sun worship.
Yeah, but even sun worship in its true origin is actually okay. Like, you look at even the Nefina, the ancient flag of Nefina and stuff like that, was actually a sun, you know.
And if you look at the logo for the Defence Forces today, it still is a sun. It
still is the sun, yeah. So there's, like, the sun is, well, I suppose if the sun didn't come up, there wouldn't be life, you know. And the sun is what gives a lot of stuff life. But you have an interesting thing today where a lot of people are saying sun worship is Luciferian and all this kind of stuff. But, like, we need the sun, you know. So in a way, like, obviously a lot of people use things for their own benefit and manipulate things and change it and all this kind of stuff, you know. But, like, it is a very good. But the sun was a massive thing in Ireland. Like, you even look at stone circles and stuff like that, you know. Like, it's very interesting when you, like, a lot of people today don't know how to use stone circles, and they don't realise that they're still operating the same way that they operate.
There's a lot of information coming out recently to say that they're more to do with sound vibration, well, as much to do with sound as they are to do with light. They're starting to realise the sound and harmonic properties of the likes of Newgrange and Stonehenge and things like that.
This is it, but to understand that properly, you need to be able to speak Om, and you need to be able to speak ancient Irish language, which is the language of music. Like, when you see an actual standing stone with the Om writing on it, when you turn that on its side, that's actually the origins of the language of music. You know, which is it sounds grand for me to just talk about that because I've studied it for a while, but for a lot of people to just hear that first day, it's like, what's going on here? But it actually is, because when you think about it, I'm speaking to you now, so I'm opening my mouth, so I'm actually using my throat to create sound frequency, and I'm manipulating that to make it sound like words and stuff, you know. So actually, when we're speaking, that's actually sound, you know. So, like, that's what I mean when you speak ancient language, ancient Irish language. The sound frequency is actually really, it is that of nature, and the Irish language derives from sounds that come from nature. That's actually why we don't have V, J, K, X, and all this kind of stuff, you know. Because even today, if you ask anyone who is very into programming and stuff, when you put V or anything like that into a program, like even if you're programming a robot, if you put the V or anything like this, it'll actually cause the robot to do something negative. That's why a lot of advanced programmers believe that there is none of these Roman numerals were inside an ancient Irish frequency or ancient Irish natural harmonics. And it's interesting then, because the Roman entity who actually were the people who evolved all these ones are the entities that actually have caused most damage on the planet, you know, because it's negative frequencies and stuff like that. But
it's misusing the sound vibration, and when you understand that sounds and words affect creation, I've talked about this before, like even in the Bible, it starts off saying God said, let there be light. So that tells you that sound precedes sight, vision, light, and that it precedes creation, and that so if they have the knowledge that sound vibrations and words can be used to create things, then they can use them to their power to create realities, to create circumstances that keep you under control or keep you confused or whatever it is. So absolutely, like, I can see how if you had an ancient language, and Sanskrit is like that as well, where it's more to do with the natural sounds of nature or the natural sounds that the human being can make, and it's a fluid language, and then you can take that knowledge and then convert it into words that are restrictive and controlling. Like even the word obligation, it produces a certain feeling in the person who hears it. The word summons is another one. So you can take that knowledge and then strip the people of that knowledge and then use it back against them. And it's just what pops into my head. Another interesting point: the word oath, which is a really common word in the law to do with an obligation, you're under an oath. It comes from Old Irish.
I'm
sure there's a lot of other words in the law that with an open mind, you can trace them back to have an old Irish origin. There was one guy who came to a meeting before. He was from Northern Ireland, and he was telling us that words in legalese and words used in the law come from old Irish words that have basically been anglicised and are now being used in a legal context to give the user power.
Yeah, definitely. Like, that's what I was trying to get at, really, you know. But it's kind of like there's a lot of people around Ireland. Some people are only just getting into it small, but some people have advanced knowledge, which is good, you know. But that's basically what I'm trying to get, because I've been studying this for a very, very, very long time, and that's true. Like laws and stuff, because you look at the Brehon laws and you look at all these ancient Irish laws that were actually kind of the most respected laws around, you know. So obviously the laws we have today are not those. They're a bastardization, all different things, and just to use, like, even in a court, it's all negative words, it's all negative vibrations, it's absolutely crap, you know. And definitely, yeah, so like we need to go back to, like, I'll speak in a while about what we need to do to actually fix the place. It's not that hard to actually fix it once you know what to actually do, you know what I mean? But yeah, look, that's like we're only realising the power of why a lot of societies don't want us to behave in a way that is completely natural to us, you know?
Yeah. Well, can I just ask you a question? Say if people wanted to find out more about this sort of information, how could they start studying it? Where would they begin?
Oh, that's an interesting one. Like, obviously, you know, we have more and more people coming up and with a lot of information, but I've been studying this for most of my life, you know. So I've actually always been deeply, deeply interested in it. Like the best places, just old books and stuff. And if you want to learn Irish language, don't learn. Get the Om. Look. Get the letters itself. Om. Learn what letters actually mean. And once because all of us, we went to school in Ireland, but not one of us were ever told the Irish alphabet. You know, there's a reason we want to know the Irish alphabet. Because when you learn, that's what I tell people, don't bother going out learning words, don't learn the Irish language, learn the old Irish alphabet. Because the minute you start learning the old Irish alphabet, you start to go to yourself, shit, we don't use that today, we actually use a crap version of Irish language that's not true to us. And that's what a lot of people don't want you to actually realise. So what I tell people, if you actually want to learn law, if you want to learn anything, the best way to start is get the Om alphabet and just learn what the letters mean. And when you start realising that, when you start walking around Ireland and you start looking at things, you will start to make sense out of absolutely everything. You kind of go, shit, these fellas are actually really using our wisdom against us, and they're after disorientating us from our natural consciousness, so to speak, you know. So that's what I would get people to do. Like, even when you look at the days of the week in Irish and the months of the year, if you look at that through an understanding of Irish language or English alphabet, it doesn't make sense. But now if you start going back to Om and actually just looking at it through what that actually means in old Irish alphabet, it has a complete different meaning and gives you an incredible understanding of, I suppose, solar systems and all universal energies and stuff like that, because Irish language was actually based in harmony with nature, and that's why we didn't have negative frequency letters and stuff like that. That's why even in Irish language, like you said, like Boshe Gumsa, it is of me, like nothing is ever yours, it's only ever of you at a certain time, meaning that in accordance with Irish language, materialism doesn't exist, you know. Even, it's very interesting, like even today we say, like in court, everyone's saying, I'm not that name, or I'm not, what it's all about, I'm man, I'm not name, and all this kind of stuff. But it's interesting because in Irish language we actually don't have names. The name we say cod is anam. The word anam means soul, and that's where we get the word anam cara, soul mate. So when if I say cod is anam this, you will say Kevin is anam dum, means Kevin is my soul, and that's a lot more powerful, and that's why like Irish language means kind of like the soul consciousness and all that kind of stuff. Because when I say Codisanum did, what I'm asking you is, what is your soul consciousness? And that is really cool. That's why ancient Irish language is so poetic. It's not even funny, and it's incredible when you start actually looking into it, you know. And everything it makes so much sense, even when you're looking at times, and it makes perfect sense. But I suppose to me, then I've been looking at this a long time, and kind of. So obviously,
well, I think it's interesting you're saying there, like, a good place to start is old books, and to put the research in yourself at the source material. Even if you get a history book that's about 100 years old, which you can get them, the difference in the information in just that 100 years time to now and what you get in those old history books is unbelievable. They'll actually go into the early origins of the Irish people, and they'll talk about the likes of the Partholonians and the Tuatha Dé Danann, the early rulers of Ireland. They actually talk about them in these books. They talk about the likes of St. Patrick, and they talk about how there might have actually been two St. Patricks, instead of just dumbing people down and watering it all down into just a simple box ready version of history that whitewashes out all the really interesting stuff that was. If it was in there, we'd probably have a lot more historians in the country today, because they'd be much more passion driven to find out about Irish history, like early Irish history.
Definitely. Like I was only having I know I have a lot of problems with the fundamentals of University College Cork and the Law Society, all this kind of stuff. But I get on with a lot of UCC law students, and we openly chat about a lot of stuff, like, But the thing is, they're after realising that UCC actually cannot tell the truth about history. They can't, because they can't. It goes completely against them. They cannot tell the truth because they're lying about laws. They're lying about so much different stuff that they actually can't, and that's why. Like, even a lot of people wouldn't know this, but in 1922 it became illegal to talk, to give true Irish history. Eamon de Valera changed a lot of that kind of stuff, He was actually the guy who brought in teaching Irish language was English alphabet, because he knew all this kind of stuff. He was actually a Jesuit, He wasn't a nice guy at all.
So there was laws made to prevent the teaching of this early Irish history.
Yeah.
During the politics of Eamon de Valera.
Yeah. He was the guy who actually set up the education system in Ireland. He gave us what we have now, the crap that we have now. It was actually him, right? And you realise that he was actually the minute you say he's a Jesuit, and yourself, all these people knew about the ancient knowledge of you keep a child for 7 years and we can control him for the rest of his life and all this kind of stuff. He knew that, and he was the guy who set up the education system. Like, it's very interesting when you look at even De Valera and what he actually done to Ireland is an incredible story, because we're led to believe that Ireland was a neutral country for so long and stuff like that. The only reason why they kept Ireland a neutral country is because they were planning stuff for a long time. It was actually, if you check it out, it was actually Eamon de Valera who signed Israel into being a country. The Israel that we have today, that was
Eamon de Valera. What was his involvement in it?
Because he was president of Ireland at the time, and the thing is, they needed a neutral country to sign in. And that's why I believe, the only reason why they kept Ireland neutral, the Free State kept Ireland neutral at the time, was so that they would be able to sign Israel into be. So it was actually Eamon de Valera who signed Israel into be, So it's very interesting when you start looking at all that kind of stuff, But as I said, I was kind of introduced to this from a young age. Like, my nan kind of taught me a lot about a lot of stuff, really. And she was actually my nan's name was Mary Thorne. She was actually, Wolf Thorne married into our family, he married in, and I know a lot of people like him and a lot of people don't like him, all this kind of stuff. I understand what people are going about, but my nan knew an awful lot about an awful lot and educated me on an awful lot when I was very young, and she planted so many seeds in my mind to make me look into a lot of stuff. And I remember as a kid being told a story about the day that Eamon de Valera died. Like, when he died, all my family in Dublin, they met up in the house, and they closed the curtains, locked everything, and they didn't want to recognise anyone in the country paying respect to Eamon de Valera, because they knew exactly what he'd done, So I realised that this is actually, that is imagine that, imagine a family actually meeting up in the house and just turning off tellies, radios, and just ignoring life for a day because they didn't want to see any Irish person respecting the person that actually destroyed their whole education system and stuff like that. So I was kind of weird learning the truth, and I guess from an early age, that kind of, even my very first, when I was young, I was brought up around all these Celtic forts, and I was kind of told a lot about all the ancient Irish history, and there's even roads in the country that are named after family members and people who kind of died in the IRA and all this kind of stuff. So So I was educated from a young age about a lot of stuff. So even when I was in school, like my first day in history class, I was looking forward to history class so much. Like even in my primary school, I was telling you about the lock earlier. I was told true history about that in my primary school, you know. And we in that primary school, we were proud of what we were told. We were like Celtic warriors, and we just loved it. We just wanted to protect the country and all this kind of stuff. But my very first day in history school, in history class in secondary school, I remember standing my very first class. I stood up and started shouting at the teacher, telling him how dare he tell lies about Irish history and what's all this crap in the book. And the teacher was going, oh, this is the home rule, all this kind of stuff, you know. And I was kind of going, that's a load of crap. That's a load of crap. I said, why aren't you telling us about kind of the IRB at the time, not the IRB of today, but the IRB at the time, you know? Why aren't you telling us about them? Why aren't you telling us about Nafina, all this kind of stuff? Why aren't you telling us about United Irishmen, all this? And he was kind of, that probably didn't happen at all. And I remember that day shouting at him, saying, well, how can that not happen? I said, I come from Ballyvian. I said, where I come from, the 7 streets are named after all the proclamation signatures. I said, there's streets named after Joe Murphy, who died in hunger strike. I said, the hunger strike of Ploss with Terence McSweeney, a whole lot of them is actually down the road, you know. I was giving out about this in my first day in history class, and then the teacher kind of turned to me and said, look, he said, sorry, no, we're going to have to keep to the book. But from that day on, I kind of said, well, fuck the education system anyway. I just turned me back in it because I realised it was all full of crap, you know.
Yeah.
Are you still there?
Yeah, I'd say they loved you in school, all right.
Yeah, so from that point on, I kind of, I don't know, I seen it as a bit of a joke. I liked French and all that kind of stuff, but I seen it as a joke. But just to getting into how, like, it's very interesting. Like, I was growing up with a lot of interesting knowledge about Ireland, about a lot of stuff. Like, I was telling you recently there, even about the Orkney Islands of Scotland. Like, that's an interesting place as well. When you start, people are going to realise that the Orkney Islands in Scotland is a very interesting place. That goes back to ancient Scotland and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you mentioned this before, that there's a scroll out there that's used by the Freemason Lodge, and it's one of the oldest Freemason relics. And you told me as well that you had an interesting experience when you went out to visit there, when you picked up a local newspaper. Yeah.
So this is the interesting part. I learned about all this when I was very young, anyway. But when people are into all this Freemasonic stuff and all that, they realise that the most powerful book, the most sacred book in Freemasonry is a thing called the Kirkwall Scroll. The Kirkwall Scroll, Kirkwall. Kirkwall is actually the capital of the Orkney Islands, and the Kirkwall Scroll, if you look into it, it's actually the connection between the Freemasonry and the Knights Templar, and that's their most sacred document. But the thing is, in Scotland, the ancient clans of Scotland and Ireland were connected, and I know all about this connection a very long time ago. They were very connected.
It's in the ancient history. It is a very well documented thing, but yet just another thing that they leave out of the history books in the modern schools. You know.
Yeah. But the oldest stone circle in what's known today as the British Isles, it's in the Orkney Islands, and it's actually in a place called the Ring of Brodgar is what it's called. It used to be 60 standing stones, but my family were actually one of the 60 people, you know, because even the name Banks, it goes back to, we were ancient keepers of knowledge of water and all this kind of stuff, you know. And I knew about this. That's why I always kind of related with the New Zealand Maori people as well, because they're the same. And that's why, and we were keepers of iridology, all this knowledge and wisdom. But it's very interesting. Like when I went to the Orkney Islands, like as I was telling you, I went to have a look at this stuff. But first, I just arrived in the Orkney Islands. I got a newspaper to see what was going on, and a couple of pages into it, I looked at it and it said, "What is it? The Banks tomb is changing perspectives on life, or something like that." What they done is they found there was a tomb belonged to the Bankses, that would be enough, that goes back to 5000 BC, right? And there was actually a skull inside it. And like that's a freaky thing, being a normal fellow seeing that. You're kind of going, what the fuck is this? Like, I knew we had an old history, but I didn't know it was that fucking old. Like, and I was kind of going, Jesus, is this fella one of my relatives or what? But it's mad, even when you, like as I said, the first newspaper you look through, you just see that a couple of pages and you kind of go, oh Jesus, this is going to be an interesting experience in this island anyway. But it's interesting because it now looks like the Freemasonry and the Kirkwall Scroll, that information was robbed off my family and other Irish families. That was robbed off us, and then they hid it, and then that became all secret societies then after it. But that was taken from us. And it wasn't just taken from us, it was kind of, would have been taken from, like, the Maori people and all these kind of people, you know?
When you say taken from us, do you mean the wisdom of the old world, the wisdom of the old cultures from ancient times, and that wisdom, that knowledge is being used by members of secret societies now for negative means to control, instead of what it was used before in harmony with nature, and to sort of to be in harmony with nature and to balance energies that we work with as people. Is that what you're talking about?
Definitely, 100%. Yeah, it was like all this, that was taken because that goes back to the Magna Carta as well. If you understand the timing right, it goes back to the Magna Carta, because when I suppose the British came to power after the Reformation of the Church and the Battle of the Boyne and all this kind of stuff, what they done was they actually they started commencing the Highland clearances and killing a lot of people in Scotland and stuff like that. But they also destroyed a lot of the Orkney Islands, and they robbed a lot of information off people who kept this knowledge and wisdom and stuff like that. And then today, to me, it seems like it's definitely been used against a lot of people from what I've studied about it, because even the Kirkwell Scroll talks a lot about the Book of Enoch, and it goes back into it has the ancient alphabet, the actual ancient true Om alphabet that is unmanipulated. So they know all this wisdom about sound and frequency and harmonics and all that kind of stuff, and that is being used against people today, you know. Like, in saying that, I understand that, like, Freemasonry is a secret society, right? But 100% of these people cannot be bad people, you know yourself. But I'm not a Mason. I don't believe in any of that stuff. But as well as that, they can't. I can't see all of them being bad, like, you know. So they'd have, like everything else, there'd have to be good people in there trying to fucking fix it up or whatever, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. There's people in Freemasons who just join it for altruistic reasons, and they just see it as a sort of a frat club for grown men, and they're just in it for innocent reasons. Absolutely. It's like every walk of life. You can't really tar everybody who's in it with the same brush. But I think just being involved in that, and as you go through higher initiations and get exposed to deeper and deeper quote unquote insights and knowledge, it allows you to put you into contact with people, and it gives you a sort of a consciousness that allows you to be a bit more corruptible back out in the real world, you know.
Yeah, but it's interesting, because I've been studying all this stuff for a while, and as I said, I even went to Scotland to find out all this. But you'll find, like, the Kirkwell Scroll is the actual is the connection between Freemasonry and the Knights Templar, right? And a lot of, like, which is very interesting, you know. And a lot of stuff will go back to the Orkney Islands of Scotland. Like, as I said, the Divestone Circle Inn, it goes back to, I think it's 3,500 BC, and there's Banks tombs anyway that go back to 5,000 BC, and things could go back further, but there's a lot of knowledge and wisdom there. But it's like as if it's strange as well. It's definitely kind of tied in a bit with Knights Templar, you know, which is interesting. I'm not a Mason. I'm not a Knights Templar. I'm just interested in all this kind of stuff, you know. But it's kind of, from my own perspective, it got interesting as well from an early age, because you look at the Fleur de Lis, you know yourself, the crest of the Fleur de Lis, yeah? That is actually, like, I can trace back that's my family crest. Like, there was 4 of them on my family crest, right? And we can trace back that usage to 5,000 BC. So we used it a long time before everybody else, but even, like, it was then used by all, I suppose, all these commercial monarchies and everyone afterwards, like, you know. And to us, people misused our symbology and stuff like that. Like, even when you look at, you see it was on the crown of the French monarchy, crown on everyone, they all use. Yeah,
it's a really common symbol across all countries, and you see it in secret societies as well. It's very common, the fleur de lis.
Yeah, because I think it goes back to the Kirkwell Scroll, and it's all explaining that, but they took that and used all this with knowledge and wisdom and stuff like that. But it's interesting as well, because it's also the crest of the French Foreign Legion, you know. Yeah. And it's very interesting when it gets to that. But the thing is, people have a misunderstanding of what it actually means. Like that's why I'm into health, I'm into nutrition, all that kind of stuff. That's what got me into it, because my family didn't know. I've been looking into it because they go back so far. It's interesting, but I suppose everybody, whoever goes back that far, will find something. We're just being educated not to look back that far. I did it. I had a good look back. But apparently we kept all this knowledge of iridology and all that kind of stuff. And the fluid elise actually ties in with that in a very interesting way, because the fluid elise is known as the iris as well, and the iris is the lily, all this kind of stuff. But it's what it symbolises is like the stem of the lily is in green, right? Or the fluid elise is in green. So that represents our connection to nature. We come from nature, so we protect the nature we come from. The shell of it is actually the white of the shell, but that's feminine energies, and that kind of nourishment, caring, compassion, all that kind of stuff. And the internal flow then is masculine energies, proud of where we come from, and all this kind of stuff. But it also symbolises that all men come from women in a way, And this was an ancient symbol of ancient Ireland as well. That's why we didn't own the symbol. We just used it because of what it meant and what it symbolised in nature and all that kind of stuff, So it wasn't. It's definitely not a thing like, oh, look at us, we're great because we fucking use it. There's nothing like that. It's all based on nature and stuff. But the science of iridology is actually the science of the human eye and nutrition and all that kind of stuff. It's also interesting because the iridology is like if it's the defense mechanism of a plant. If a plant ever cuts itself, what happens is that if you cut a plant, it actually affects this defense mechanism, so to speak. The best way to describe it is, it's probably not a good way to describe, but some people today, even people who kind of, if they grow plants or weed or whatever, this kind of stuff, what they will do is, when it's growing, they will shake it. They will shake it to scare it, and when you scare it, you activate its iridology, you activate its iridoids, and you force it to defend itself. So iridology is a natural defense mechanism in nature, and that's also why we're known as the Irish, because apparently our consciousness is the natural defense mechanism and all this kind of stuff, And that's what it goes back to. So it's very interesting,
Yeah, it is very interesting. You were talking earlier on about the chakra points on Ireland.
Yeah, we go back to that. Cause
I don't think we got through all of them, did we?
No, we didn't. We were on the heart chakra. We done the base, and then the navel, and then the heart. But then after that, you go to the, what's it called, the subconscious, and the subconscious is actually Belfast, is at the back of the head, and people
right, so if Ireland was like a baby fetus or a baby fetus, and you looked at it as it was a person, then the back of the skull, which is where our subconscious or our sort of reptilian part of our brain is, that's where it would be geographically in Ireland.
Yeah, and that's Belfast, if you look at it properly. It's very interesting as well when you look at it, because like things happen in the physical world as well as they happen in the spiritual world, which is interesting. I don't know, I just pick up on all of these things. But it's interesting, the fact that the Union Jack flag came down off came down off Belfast, off the City Hall, right? And we all know this to be a corporate flag and corporate consciousness. So it's like the corporate subconsciousness has come down as we move back to natural consciousness.
So would you believe then that this sort of that idea of as above so below that you hear again in all the secret societies, that sort of principle applies here, and when we see, say, the Union Jack coming down in the north, then it's going to have a subconscious effect on the rest of the country?
Yeah, but I believe that our energy creates a lot, and in Ireland, it's probably what happened is the collective consciousness of a lot of people forced an occurrence to happen that brought down that flag. It's hard to explain unless you have a good understanding, I suppose, of spiritual science and consciousness and energy and stuff like that. But yeah, look, I just find it very interesting, and I just think it's interesting that it came down at a point when consciousness was opening up as well,
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
So whereabouts would be the throat chakra?
The throat chakra, I suppose that's an interesting point, because at the moment you have a border going across it, so that's like the whole throat itself was actually cut. Some people say that the Fermana is the actual throat chakra. There's a lot of spiritual people have looked into it, and some people think Fermana is the throat chakra. But if you look at it, what has happened is when we got when both Ireland and Northern Ireland were partitioned, what that happened was that actually cut the throat of the country. So it stopped us from speaking, and it divided us that way. It was like a collar around your throat, you know? Like if you have a dog walking on the road and you have the dog on the lead, the dog is collared to its master, you know? And it's very interesting. But a lot of people think for mana, like we need to get our throat chakra back working and stuff like that, you know? I'll just go through a couple of other energy points, and then I'll go back and I'm going to explain something very interesting. Then we'll come with the spiritual science and even what Dublin means and why Dublin is gripped and stuff like that. Like if you look at, like I was talking about Belfast, if you look at Derry is actually the crown chakra, but it's not crown as in C-R-O-W-N. It's actually crown as in C-R-A-N-N, and crown is the Irish word for a tree, and is spiritually seen as a higher state of consciousness. And that's why Derry comes from derives from the name of native trees. It's the Glen of Oak trees is where Derry comes from.
Also, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Also, it's very interesting. There's also a lot of religious stuff goes back there. And if you look at you looked into Hinduism yourself, and you look at I suppose Christ consciousness and in how that affects your pineal gland and the movement of fluid through your mind and stuff like that. It's very interesting. Then when you look at Derry and where Derry is, you also look just a small bit beyond Derry. You have the Grinning of Altec. Have you seen that? That's the stone circle monument. Have you seen that?
No, I've never heard of that one. The Grinning of Altec. The
Grinning of Altec. It's an ancient building that's just worships the sun. It's between Donegal and Belfast, kind of. Well.
Okay.
Yeah. So, like that's like Derry will be the top of a tree and like spiritually seen as a higher state of consciousness, all this kind of stuff. Now, if you really want to see how this operates, you look at Mayo, right? Mayo is the hands of the fetus and stuff like that, which both physically and spiritually shows how we are giving the world so much of what we have in relation to natural resources and all that kind of stuff. Naturally, we're just handing it over at the moment.
Ancient knowledge, for the sounds of it, yeah.
Definitely, yeah. We're handing the whole lot over because before we were handing it over, Connacht was warrior ground, and that was home of all Nafina and stuff like that. So before we were giving it away, we were protecting it. And when we were protecting it, we weren't just protecting our natural resources and all that kind of stuff. We were also protecting and proud of our wisdom and all this kind of stuff, ancient knowledge and wisdom. And that's actually the origins of the Connacht flag. And you see the Connacht flag is of blue and white, and is of man, a hand belonging to man and a hand belonging to nature, or both the Connacht is the hands of both man and nature, you know. So that's interesting itself. Then you look into...
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Very fascinating. And you look into even where Galway is today, you know. Galway is known as the city of tribes, and it's in the gut, and we all have a gut instinct that we come from tribes, you know. But it's like, it's even funny, like I was talking to Aisling Fitzgibbon one day, and we were going through all this kind of stuff, and she was saying that if that's the case, Tralee is the balls of the country, you know. But it's interesting, and then you kind of no disrespect to anyone from Waterford who are in the ass of the country, like, you know. But it's very interesting when you start looking into it. But as well as that, it's interesting. Like, where's your favourite part of Ireland at the moment?
My favourite part?
Yeah.
I like West Cork, actually.
West Cork is the feet, yeah. Would you be confident with your feet?
Confident with my feet?
Yeah.
Well, I can walk around, no bother.
yeah, good man. But the thing is, it's very interesting when you start looking into it as a living thing. That's what I mean. It proves the whole micro is the macro when you look into it properly. And this is not just part of Irish belief. This is part of ancient other beliefs, and this ties in with the whole.
Where does Ireland sit in regards of the world grid? Because I've heard it being described as the heart chakra before, but I've also heard Stonehenge being described as the heart chakra, and that that Ireland lies on significant ley lines. Now, I don't know too much about this energy grid. I don't know too much about ley lines. I know it's a belief that's been around for a very long time. to do with energy channels on the earth. And a friend of mine even suggested that a big part of the reason for the Anglo-Norman invasions and for holding on to Ireland for so long, even though it was such a thorn in the side of the empire, that the reason for that was that not to give up the territory that was so significant in regards to where it's placed on this global energy grid. You know what I mean? That Ishnock is a site that's so important that they wouldn't let go of it, or that all the other sites that you've mentioned and the significance of Ireland is so important they wouldn't let go of it.
Yeah, very important. Like, and this is what people are only waking up today. Like, I'll tell you a very interesting story. It was said, like, I've this friend. He's a bit of a madman, but he's a nice guy. Like, he's about 50. Like, but I was telling him about all this maritime admiralty law and stuff like that about a year back. And what a seed to plant in him, and say, a couple of months ago he came up to me and told me he's after declaring himself deceased. He's after legally declaring himself deceased because, you know, in maritime law you're deceased, all this kind of stuff. So he is legally after declaring himself deceased. Now he's bringing law. So what's that?
Right, go on, yeah.
So now he's bringing law cases against the Gardaí using the laws of the cosmos and the starry plough and all that kind of stuff. Like, instead of having a harp at the top of the page like people were doing before, this fella has a starry plough and he knows everything about it. And I only seen him there now a couple of days ago, and he goes, Banks again, there's something important underneath Cork. I don't know what it is yet, but we have to find this. I was kind of going, what are you talking about? He goes, look, I'm after doing serious study. He said all the meridian lines join up in Cork. He said we're going to have to get rid of UCC, which is very funny. Like, from my perspective, I just thought that was funny. Like, you know, but you know, like, that's the interesting thing. Now you have a lot of people in Cork kind of running around that's going, what? All them talking about meridian lines, because apparently Cork, there's so many meridian lines even going through Cork. That's the very reason why why University Cork, College Cork is there as well. It's the very reason why the Queen comes to Cork. It's the very reason why even tonight in University College Cork, the President of the European Union is inside there, and they're awarding him with the President of Poland. It's a very, very powerful. It's the reason why they have the skull and crossbones and all this kind of stuff. Like, yeah,
this is something we talked about before. That the logo for UCC College in Cork, which is a relatively old college in Ireland, is a skull and crossbones, which is a strange logo to choose for a college unless you're a pirate.
Yeah. Like, you have to ask a few questions. Like, a university using the fucking skull and crossbones, you know. But it's very interesting because a lot of people have seen that there was a pharaoh found underneath University College Cork. Yeah? Have you seen that?
A which underneath? A
pharaoh.
Oh, I seen that actually. A pharaoh was found, yeah. A Egyptian mummy.
An Egyptian mummy, yeah. So it's very, like, that's what I mean. Like, that pharaoh or that mummy was not not brought from Egypt. That was where it actually laid and died and stuff like that. So we've been studying a lot of stuff. But what people need to look into, when people see meridian lines these days and they go through Stonehenge, what you need to do is follow the line and see where it goes. You'll find that a lot of things are actually going into Cork, and there's a lot of them going past Cork out to Skellig Michael and stuff like that. But it's interesting because Walt Disney knew about all this stuff. He lived in West Cork. You also have Henry Ford. Henry Ford lived in West Cork as well. These are two powerful people who were part of the Masonic Lodge in Cork. You also have, like, Cork was there before 1884. We held the time meridian. We were the time consciousness, and we were the keepers of the now, so to speak. And when you look at the starry plough, what's happened? So there's a lot of things actually tying in with Cork. And that's what I'm kind of going to try get into next. I'm going to try get into just how New Zealand is connected to Ireland and what is actually going on there. You know what I mean? But it's very interesting. But in a way as well, it's very funny when you bump into a couple of madmen on the street and they're telling you that they're after declaring themselves deceased, and they're going suing all the guards for using the wrong law because they're not operating in accordance with the laws of the cosmos and all this kind of stuff. Like that. Well,
it's definitely a sign of the times anyway.
Yeah. And the thing is, the fear is gone, you know what I mean? Like UCC controlled this country for so long, and if you look at it, like people think, like, today you have a lot of UCC students, right? And I know not all, like, what are you saying? I'm trying to say it in some way respectful, like, you know, like, but these people go around the place looking for a bit of respect and thinking that they're better than everyone because they're UCC law students. But in the history of UCC law faculty has never helped the people of Ireland. Not once. Never. Now you look into the origins of the law that they're using at the moment. You look at canon law, you look at all this kind of stuff, which basically goes back to, they're using the King James Bible that was that himself and Francis Bacon rewrote. And these are people who were all tampering with the Boyne Valley back at the Battle of the Boyne. So, and that was the founding of sectarianism in Ireland. So UCC law faculty is a sectarian organisation that enhances sectarianism in Ireland. So when I'm talking to a UCC law student, I say to them, are you a supporter of sectarianism? Do you support sectarian violence? And they say, no, I'm a law student. I say, exactly. I say, isn't a UCC law student actually a supporter of sectarian violence? Because the fundamental laws that you are trying to uphold are the fundamental laws that actually enhance sectarian violence in Ireland and could make it actually continue. And like
and like, in what way do the sectarian laws come out of UCC? Is it because that it goes back to canon law?
Yeah. Like, how would I explain this? I've done a thing there before, kind of explaining a bit about UCC and what's going on. Like, when you look at it, when you look back at it, if you look at, like, it's fair enough a university having the skull and bones as a symbology. That's crazy enough as it is.
But it's also true that you told me just before that the law faculty, or maybe it was the college, but definitely the law faculty was founded in the height of the famine.
Yeah. That's the interesting thing. Like, today people say, oh, UCC law faculty, it means University College Cork, but it doesn't. UCC law faculty was established in 1845 at the same time as the famine. So UCC law faculty was called UCC law faculty in 1845, which was 60 years before the college was even changed to University College Cork. So when it was called Queen's University, it was known as UCC law faculty, which, you know yourself, the Crown and the Mont, it's all about canon law. So, and like, UCC is canon law, it is Uniform Commercial Code. So UCC law faculty actually means Uniform Commercial Code law faculty, and that's one of the biggest problems we have. That's why the Queen goes there. But that's
so you're saying that the UCC law faculty in what's now called UCC College Cork, it was once called Queen's University, and it wasn't called UCC College for another 60 years after the law faculty was set up.
Yeah.
Okay, so they had a law faculty called UCC, which you're saying wouldn't have anything to do, couldn't have been related to the name of the college because it wasn't called that college at the time.
Definitely, yeah. That's exactly what I'm saying. And the thing is, you have a lot of people saying that UCC law started in America in 1933 and all that kind of stuff. But I've proof that UCC law actually started in Ireland back in 1845.
Okay, what kind of proof?
That's when the law faculty actually opened. I've serious proof. They actually opened as UCC law faculty, like.
Yeah.
You know, and it's very interesting.
And it's about 80 years before it popped up in America.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting. Even when you kind of had a small bit of a look around, so you kind of seen a bit of the symbology that is there. Like even the church that's on. So you've seen a bit of the Oppenheimer kind of. You got a bit of an introduction.
That's right. Yeah, we went up to UCC campus and the little chapel there, and I remember the first thing that struck me when I walked in was the astrology symbols on the ground, and there's this sort of Celtic mosaic artwork of all the animals and this sort of big beast. But the thing that struck me was the astrology signs, because, you know, nothing like, people have practiced astrology. It's an ancient sort of art or science that's gone on for a long time, and it again comes back to the idea of the sun and the movement of the sun and the planets and so on. But it's not something that you would generally expect to see in a Christian church. when the Bible says things like you shouldn't practice astrology or have astronomers, things like that. So that's the thing that struck me first of all, and then a lot of Maltese and Templar crosses around on the walls. And when we picked up the book that sort of gave a little explanation of the church and told the history of it, we seen that it was actually built and sponsored by the Oppenheimers. Oppenheimer being one of the guys who is responsible for creating the atomic bomb, as far as I know, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and they currently control the diamond trade in Africa.
And isn't it? Didn't you tell me that they have some sort of nuclear material in UCC, which was this college where this Oppenheimer church was? What's that about?
There's 2.5 tons of uranium on site. You know, at the moment they have 2.5 tons of uranium on site.
And what's the reason for this? Is just to do something like, I know it's a college. Are they having this uranium on site to do some sort of scientific experiments and things like that, or?
But the thing is, Cork is meant to be a nuclear-free zone. Like, we have signs up everywhere saying it's a nuclear-free zone, but it's definitely not. UCC do not have have uranium on site. The interesting thing is, UCC is a private company. It's not actually government affiliated. It's a private company. It's a 100% private enterprise. What happened is, when Queen's University, we were told that it became University College Cork. But it didn't. It was the exact same as what happened in was it 1948 when the Irish government rebranded from Irish Free State the Republic of Ireland, but it didn't actually change ownership. What it does is only commercially rebranded, and that's the same as University College Cork. All they done was commercially rebranded. It's still actually Queen's University. That's why the Queen came here. Why else would she come here? You know, but
well, maybe you told me that as well. I thought it was interesting that the Queen, of the colleges in Ireland that she could have visited Trinity College Dublin. Yeah. I would have thought that would have been the more natural choice, because it was, you know, established by the English a long time ago. But you told me that when she was over, she actually visited the University College Cork, and she spent a lot of time in Cork. If I'm not mistaken, she visited quite a few sites down there, including the Blarney Stone, if I'm right.
Yeah. But if anybody's listening, tell them to keep away from the Blarney Stone. It's not the real one. There's all the kids at the weekends, they all piss on top of it. So that's like that's what we joke, and that's the true gift of the gab. Like, you know, it's a bit of urine therapy.
God, jeez. Oh, that's good to know. I'll make a mental note of that then.
Yeah.
I don't think the Queen actually kissed her when she was over, though, did she?
Yeah. But the thing is, like, it's very interesting when you look into University College Cork and what's actually going on and all that kind of stuff. You look at University College Cork were the first. They were a medical college a long time ago as well, you know. And what happened is they actually set up the first medical hospital for profit, so to speak, and that's why it's called University Hospital Cork. CUH, Cork University Hospital, because Cork University Hospital is actually owned by the UCC. It's actually, the whole HSC is actually owned by UCC. UCC is actually, from what we've studied now, UCC is actually what tells the government what to do. It's not the opposite way around, because
when you say UCC, what do you mean? Do you mean the college itself?
Yeah.
Explain that a bit more to us.
Right.
That it would be like the faculty of UCC are advising the government, or what?
Oh, it's a bit more than that. It's just that they have the government by a very, very tight grasp. Like, they control the entire medical system. Like, you know, UCC is a business partner with Pfizer's Pharmaceuticals as well, yeah. But how would I explain it? Like, all you know how UCC law works, right? And how all commercial governments all commercial entities are governed by UCC law and all this kind of stuff. But UCC law faculty in Cork is the home of UCC law in Ireland. They control the whole thing. That's why UCC is the most powerful university in Ireland. They also commercially own Chambers Council of Ireland, which they influence all the councils, all the city councils and all this kind of stuff. They have a lot of control. That's why people today underestimate University College Cork, but it's a lot bigger than what people think, and that's why, like, we find it very interesting at the moment. Like, you know, like, with a lot of law students are all after waking up to exactly what's going on. Like, was it last year or the year before or something like that? There was even students. What they between classes, they were wandering around the place, like probably having a smoke or something like that. I don't know, but they walked in on top of a ceremony. There was actually a ceremony happening.
Yeah, I heard about this as well. This was pretty freaky story. They walked in a ceremony underneath the college or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, they walked in on top of some ritual, on top of some sacrifice or something like that. Because for a long time there was a lot of cult. Like UCC was a very dark place, but it's definitely changing now. We can see a lot of things changing. But for a long time, for a very long time, there was a lot of cults happening. A lot of really dark stuff going on. Was this like just the word on the campus? Was this something that was well known around the town, or was it in the local papers or anything like that? That this had happened to them? It was a lot of students kind of spoke up about it, and it was basically it wouldn't go on local media. Local media would not put it on, and you can obviously kind of see why. But,
well, I do remember when we were walking around the campus, and they have this sort of display of in one of the buildings. They have this display of a collection of Ohm stones sort of mounted to the wall, and when you get to the end of this corridor, there's this like sculpture that's like something you'd see out of Harry Potter or something. It's these robed figures, one of them with a pointy hood, like almost like a KKK hood, and they look like almost like monks or something like that with no faces. And there was no plaque or inscription or this is an art installation done by such and such a student or anything like that. It was just there in the hall for no particular reason, and it just gave off a really creepy vibe. And as we're walking among those halls, you can just imagine, you can see these gates that are sort of blocking off staircases going further down underneath the college. I can only imagine what could potentially go on in somewhere like that after hours when no students are around.
This is it, and as well as that, we're having 2.5 tons of nuclear, I suppose, possible nuclear weapons. That's kind of pretty fucking dangerous. But as well as that, what a lot of people don't know is up until 1959, University College Cork was also Cork County Prison. It was also one half of it was a university, and the other half was a prison. So they controlled the system of educating justice in Ireland, and they also controlled the prison system. Now, if you look right into that, I've looked into the authority of UCC. I've even on a local newspaper a couple of months back, it was publicly accused. UCC were publicly accused that for being a private for-profit company, and the newspaper even said we still await a response from UCC. UCC can't respond because they're actually a private company. We looked into the whole thing. UCC based all their authority on a British Act in 1909, and they base all their authority on that. The whole prison system, the whole everything that they had up until 1959 was all based on a 1909 British Commercial Act. That had
was it like a charter or something that was just sort of commissioning the college into existence? Is that it?
Yeah.
So that'd be pretty common. Yeah.
Yeah. So even if you look at the Free State and stuff like that, and if you look at the legalities of all, well, you realise that UCC had a prison, right? And UCC executed a lot of people. They shot a lot of people. UCC also sent a lot of people to the Magdalen laundries and all this kind of stuff. If you were out of place in Cork, you were sent there. Yet they don't have authority for all this kind of stuff. I went through the actual foundings of it, and UCC was actually founded by force of arms. It was founded by force of arms and opened up. It was like as I said, it was started off as Queen's University, and that was at the same time the famine happened. The very same time. It was just like it can't be a coincidence that we're taking over the education system, and then the country falls apart. Like, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's
fascinating stuff. It really is fascinating stuff. I think we're probably going to have to get you to come back on again to do a part 2. Because we're just coming up to near 11 o'clock now. But there was one more thing I wanted to talk to you about before we wrap up, or if there's anything else that you wanted to throw in. But there's a ceremony that's performed down in Cork Harbour every year to do with this sort of a dart. I've seen pictures that you put up on Facebook of it, where the mayor dresses up as an admiral. Do you want to talk a bit about that, and then the experience he's had one year when you read out the proclamation at it?
I will, of course, but I'll tell you something even more interesting now at the moment. I was telling you about, I was pulling, the Port of Cork is actually just a private company, and people might have seen videos of me pulling them all on license and all this kind of stuff. The Port of Cork is moving, right? The whole Port of Cork is moving from Cork City way out to Cork Harbour. It's actually moving at the moment. They're moving it. The maritime flag that I was giving out about hasn't flown in Cork in over a month. You know?
Really?
Yeah.
And why do you think that is? Like, maybe go back a bit and tell us about the ceremony that's gone on there, and tell us why you think it is that they're now moving this harbour. If it's, you obviously think the two events are related.
Well, I just think I'm just conscious of what's going on, and I just find things funny, and I'm at a stage now where nothing really surprises me. But yeah, for a very long time, people know about the pirates and all that kind of stuff. So what they were doing was, the Lord Mayor of Cork was actually trying and work. I'm not going to even call. We might as well stop calling him the Lord Mayor of Cork. We just call him President of the Crown Corporation, right? So the President of the Crown Corporation, you put on full pirate uniform, the exact same pirate uniform that you'd see on a Captain Morgan bottle of alcohol, you know, the exact same red and yellow one with the black hat, all this kind of stuff. And what they do is they throw an arrow off the boat into the water. And because they're throwing the arrow, because it's an ancient thing, and you see on the Rockefeller's crest, all this, you see lots of arrows. So they throw lots of arrows in different parts of the world to try to claim jurisdiction. So they throw that arrow into the water, right? And because we don't rebut it, they claim ownership of the waters. And then because they claim ownership of the waters, your body is actually 90% water, so they claim ownership of you. And that's based on black magic. So
in this way, it's sort of tying back into the canon law idea as well, of the early bulls that were issued claiming the world, claiming the people in the world, claiming their souls, like. Yeah. So you're saying that this ceremony is a ritual or a ceremony that has to be performed every year to sort of reclaim the mayor is on behalf of the Crown Corporation or the Vatican, whichever way you want to look at it, is reclaiming jurisdiction, is reclaiming authority over the waters of Cork. And then, you know, you were talking about how significant Cork was earlier on in its geographic place. If that's where the root chakra is, if you claim the waters of Cork, theoretically, or when you look at it spiritually, you're claiming the waters of the rest of Ireland as well.
But it's not only that as well, like, there's a bit more into it, and that's, like, what happens is, like, it's now proven that the waters underneath Cork, we've got some of the purest waters underneath Cork than anywhere else in the country, right? The purer the water, the purer the consciousness of the water, because everybody knows water holds consciousness, and consciousness is energy and all that kind of stuff. So it's about controlling so much more stuff, like, you know, it'll take a long time to explain it, but that's what happens. They throw the arrow into the. It's like Robin Hood. It's like Robin Hood is still happening today. You know what I mean? But that's what they do. They throw it in, and because we don't rebut it, then it actually they claim ownership for another year. Yeah. All this kind of stuff. So last year we tried to do some interesting things. We rebutted it. You know. We all met up at the lock and all this kind of stuff, and the more interesting part of that is where I come from. I come from a very interesting part in Cork, because, you know, I was telling about all the Russians, where they all came in, the interest around the lock and all that. The Ballypheham, where I come from, Ballypheham and Irish, is a very interesting place. Like, all the streets are named after the proclamation signatures. Oh, there's so much going on. Even the airport is not in Cork, it's in Ballypheham. It's there for a reason, like, because we actually hold jurisdiction if you use proper old Irish law. We need to get people to wake up to actually using this.
And you were saying to me before that Ballypheham means town of the purest drop. Is that right?
Yeah, it's the kind of purest drop or purest touch. You know, there's got a couple of different meanings, you know. But that's because the starry plough comes down closest here. When it's, you know, that's what that's all about, and also because the purity of water and stuff like that. It's really, really interesting. But what happens?
Yeah, and the flag of Ballypheham as well is the starry plough with a light blue background.
Light blue background, yeah, because the sky blue represents purity of water and purity of skies, and then the 7 stars, and there's 7 stars, you have 7 chakras in the body, 7 days of the week. It's all about consciousness and stuff like that. And as I said, that was our first calendar, but I'd need a whole show to basically talk about that. That's a whole massive topic in itself anyway. But what happens, Ballypheham is a very interesting place, and it's very entangled with a lot of different entities in the world anyway. But basically we held a proclamation ceremony in Ballypheham Community Centre there one day, because when was this on the same day that the dart throwing was going in, or was it just after? No. What happened was the dart is usually thrown mid-September. It's every year is thrown in mid-September. But what we done is we arranged the proclamation ceremony for in I think it was May or something like that. And in May, and then when we arranged it anyway, and the Lord Mayor had to turn up because Ballyvihan actually holds jurisdiction. So the Lord Mayor had to turn up. So I actually stood there and read the proclamation out to the Lord Mayor. Then I kind of turned around and grabbed the Declaration of Independence, the 1919 Declaration of Independence, and the Lord Mayor then took on, she couldn't listen to that. But it's very interesting. For the very first time in Irish history, because we done that, the throwing of the dart was thrown to the next day, and there was an emergency meeting in town where the main Lord Mayors of Germany and all that met up in Isaac's Hotel, and we had a protest there that evening. But they met up there because they had to organise the throwing of the dart the next day, because they had to rebut our claim.
Because are you saying that's because that the proclamation and the Declaration of Independence were read out in the presence of the Lord Mayor of Cork, so they had to have an emergency meeting and then perform their ceremony early, bring it forward like you usually do it in September, so they brought it forward to May.
To be honest with you, we're only realising we're at a stage now. We're like we done all this stuff and the whole thing was changed, so we're kind of realising what the heck just happened. What the fuck just went on there? So we're just it's like when you win in court, the judge doesn't tell you that you won. You have to figure that out for yourself. You just know you won, but he doesn't tell you why. So sometimes you win a case and you're out to the door and going, oh, what the fuck happened there? How did I manage to win? But that's like when we done the proclamation ceremony, which happened on a Saturday. The next day, the firing a dart was done, and it was all an emergency thing, and it had to be done the next day before business started on Monday morning, because 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and it was very interesting at the time, And that
I think it's interesting that, as you said at the start, that they're actually moving the port now out of Cork City. Yeah.
They're moving around to it was port, like the Cork City was controlled by the Port of Cork Authority. And so it's not actually the Port of Cork is moving, it's the Port of Cork Authority. They're all moving the whole road now to Cove and Haulbowline. So the Port of Cork is moving out of the city now, so it's going to be, for the first time, it's going to be gone. Which is funny. So I'm interested now in what actually happens next. Like the maritime flag hasn't flown in a while because everyone in Cork knows what's going on. Like, I'm friends with Garrett, I'm friends with Army, they know what's going on. At first I thought I was nuts, now they're kind of going, shit, what the heck is going on? They're asking themselves questions, But when they looked into the meaning of the maritime flag, none of them liked it. So the thing is, at the moment, nobody wants to go up and fix it, because fuck it, might as well keep it down. But it's interesting, because when we've realised that when we use actually the natural laws of Ireland and stuff like that, that means that's us. We seem to get a lot of good response from doing that, and that's how, as well as that, it's very interesting when you look at Dublin, right? Because Cork and Dublin, I believe, have two different laws. I believe Dublin is 100% gripped. I believe Dublin is not free at all. And that's why you don't get away with anything in courts. And I believe that's the reason why the four courts is in Dublin, because you don't stand a fucking chance, basically, But it's different in Cork, and we start doing things in Cork, we realise it works. And that's the strange part. And when we get other people doing things then across the country, it doesn't work for them. I stood outside the district court one day and just started shouting on the thing, telling everyone, don't give this court any money. I just said it the way it was. And there was even, at the time, there was two members of the Gardaí walking towards me, but when they heard what I was talking about, they kind of turned around and walked away. And it's interesting, as I was telling you before, I walk down the road sometimes, and even, because I'm not against anyone, I'm just standing up for truth. Because I'm doing that, members of the Gardaí sometimes would kind of drive down next to me, and then they'd see me sitting and roll down the window and say, "Thanks, would you leave us alone, boy? We're trying our best." But in a nice way, It's good having that kind of.
It's good to hear. Yeah, it's good to hear that you're getting across to the powers that be and the guards in that sort of way, in that sort of amiable way, because we're all in this boat together, really, and if you can get through to them like that, then that's brilliant. And it sounds like there's a lot of interesting things going on down in Cork at the moment.
There's a lot, yeah.
I'm just looking at the time though. We're just going slightly over. Is there anything else that you wanted to cover before we wrap up? I'm sure you've got loads more you wanted to talk about.
The thing is, tonight I was planning on talking about how to fix this, but we seem to talk outside about a lot of, because I suppose we have a lot of problems and stuff like that. But definitely, as I said, sorry about today. We kind of we started a bit late because there was I had a problem with with emails and stuff like that down here, So sorry we're running late, but should we talk about how to fix things properly another time anyway? But there's so much going on in Cork. Like, I'm looking forward now tonight to see how the protests went up in UCC, with like the whole presidents of the UCC and presidents of European Union and the whole lot came to UCC. The reason why they came to UCC is because that's the whole UCC law. So the whole European Union is governed by UCC law, and UCC law was actually giving prizes tonight to the people who crashed the whole European Union, because they made so much money for UCC law and canon law and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I didn't know that they were meeting there tonight until we spoke. But you said you wanted to go over like a few things about how we could fix it. I suppose if there was one or two things positive things that you would ask people to take away from this interview and the information that you've given, like what would they be? What do you think is the most important things people should be focusing on at the moment?
Right, I've probably talked about a lot of stuff, but what I think most people should focus definitely on, if they're interested in learning the truth, what I would get them, look at the old Ogham language, right? Look at the Ogham, look at the meanings of it. And there's like some people are kind of saying today, like, oh, I'd love to learn French, or I'd love to learn anything. Learning Ogham is the most beautiful thing you can learn. Imagine learning the language where you come from. Like, we're at a stage in life where we're actually able to learn the language of where we come from. We weren't told the truth. And when you start learning this Ogham and the true meanings, you start to connect all the dots, and you will go on a very spiritual road, because that's what it is. It's the sound of connection to nature and all this kind of stuff. So I suppose that is what I'd kind of get people to look down towards, because it is an amazing thing, And we do live in an amazing place, and it's like,
I think there is something significant about just reconnecting with your ancient culture. And I guess what you're saying is by looking at the Ogham, that's really the building blocks of where all of our language, and some would argue all language, potentially comes from, and that by taking the time to get to know this language and to get to know this alphabet, you sort of reconnect with some sort of part of your genetic memory. And that's where the best place to begin, when you want to reconnect with your ancient heritage.
Yeah, and you that's what you do. You start activating DNA. But as well as that, like, if you look at like English language, French, they're all a means of dividing everyone. Like, the thing is, once we start learning, if we go back to Ogham, that's a unity with everyone. That's the origins of, like, as I said, I'm going to go deep into New Zealand language and how that is Ogham, and the actual connections between the lot. And you look at the planet, New Zealand is the exact opposite side. So if we have that many connections with people that way, we have connections with everyone if we using things properly. And it's that, like, I definitely would be sending people down the road of learning about Ogham and learning the power of it and stuff like that. Like, at the end of the day, that was our original means of communication, so it would be beautiful to communicate on that level again,
Absolutely. Well, you'll have to come back on again to do another show to go into more detail in this stuff. But I think you gave us a really good foundation there of looking at Ireland, particularly in a spiritual way, and the significance of knowing our ancient culture and things like that. And it'd be great to get you on again, even regularly.
Definitely.
Just to get this information out, because I know you're a big fan of, well, I don't know if you can use the word fan, but admirer of Terence McSweeney. I would have liked to get into a bit of his work as well tonight, but so we'll have to get you back on another time to go into more stuff.
But I suppose at least, like, we probably diluted a bit tonight, but at least we covered a few topics, and at the end of the day, if it plants a seed in someone's mind that actually evokes an interest in things, that's brilliant, like, that's what we need.
Absolutely. Well, listen, Gerard, thanks very much for your time tonight, and I know we're running a little bit over, and I know you had your technical difficulties, but we got through it in the end, so thanks a million for your time and giving us your insights and your information tonight. I hope it does plant a few seeds and inspires people to go out and start looking into this ancient wisdom and ancient knowledge about the land where we're from, rather than looking further afield as people tend to often do. It's amazing. It wasn't until I got to New Zealand like I went, shit, everything's in Ireland, actually I need to start getting back there. You know what I mean? Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Well, listen, Gerard, we'll talk again soon. All the best.
Yeah, take it easy, boy.